Hello, folks. Welcome to the Solar Fit Renewable Energy Show. Bill Gallagher back with you again today. My woman is not with me today. She's out gallivanting, working hard, and helping people plug into the sun with solar. But I've got a very, very good friend with us. We're going to introduce in just a minute. But first, I want to give a shout-out to our friends at Daytona Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram for their loyal support through the years. In particular, our driver, Mr. Daniel Dye, who is competing full-time this year in the Xfinity Series and driving for Colic Chevrolet, the number 10 Champion Container Solar Fit Chevrolet. Will be racing this weekend in Charlotte. So please tune in the CW channel and watch him. Hopefully go to the front of the field. He's carrying the Solar Fit colors and the Race to Stop Suicide across America. So my famous guest today and my good friend is Mr. Mike Willems. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill. Happy to be here.
Well, we're pleased to have you, Mike. We've been friends for many, many moons, and I think it was Bob Zarelic that first got us in touch, right?
Yes, sir. Bob is he's one of my cousins and very involved in the solar industry for many years. And I kind of was interested in doing something at my home, and he highly recommended that I give you a call. And that's when we kind of got hooked up, and you put in the domestic hot water heater for me.
Oh man, we're so Bob is such a great guy. I got to tell you something about Bob Zarelic. He's been a friend of ours for probably 40 years, and one of the oldest solar contractors in America. I think he started maybe 4 or 5 years after we did, and thankfully now he's retired and enjoying a great life. But he's been such an instrumental man when it comes to renewable energy in the state of Florida and actually beyond, because he worked for a company that was on national level. So if he's listening in today, and maybe we'll make sure he gets a copy of that. Bob, thanks for your friendship and for all the value you've brought to the industry through the years.
Yeah, great guy. And if he's listening, thank you, Bob, for the introduction to Mr. Gallagher.
Well, thank you, Mike. No one's called me Mr. Gallagher. That's my father, but thank you anyway. So, Mike, wow. you've got quite a career going on. If you don't mind, share with our listening audience, where you grew up and a little bit how you got where you are now.
Well, I'm a native Floridian, born and raised in Fort Pierce, Florida. I moved up to this neck of the woods 25 years ago. And it was a job change. I worked for the largest investor-owned utility in the state. I guess I hope many people can guess who that was. And I was involved in customer service and also in our energy programs, one of which at the time was solar, or the solar water heating. But they had multiple programs to help folks with the efficiency at their homes and businesses. Cool roof program, air conditioning program, insulation program. So I was very involved in that for many years. But also at the utility, we had what we called our blue sky job, that was the day-to-day work. Then we had our red sky job, or storm roll. And in that role, my first trial by fire event was Hurricane Andrew. So I'll date myself a little bit with that. And I got sent down there after Andrew, and we set up what we called staging sites, which is where all the line crews would come in and they would park their trucks, and we'd fuel the trucks overnight. And they would eat there and put them to hotels for a little bit of rest before they came back in to start that restoration again. I've since left the utility, and I work for a company called Disaster Resource Group, and that's exactly what we do. I call them bed and breakfast. We set up bed and breakfast for the line crews, but not just here in the state of Florida. I work with utilities all across the Southeast to help them out after they have significant weather events.
Boy, you really jarred my memory there, Mike, when you started talking about the which was essentially the FECA program back then, the Florida Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act program, with where the utilities were actually helping people save money through energy efficiency. But that's been a while ago. How many years do you think that was?
Oh, gosh, I don't know.
15 maybe? 20 maybe? I don't know.
20 years.
Jeez,
yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's been a few years. I'm kind of that emergency response world is my world now, so I've kind of lost touch a little bit with what the utilities are doing in that arena. Hopefully they're still doing something. I know solar has gotten very, very big, the photovoltaic piece of it, with the utilities where they're doing the commercial grade and installing grids or panels with the state. I always crane my neck when I go down I-95 south and look at all of those panels just off of 95 as you're heading south, somewhere close to zero, I think. But it's great stuff.
It is. It's really, really interesting. And, I don't think we really give the utilities enough credit for what they do once a disaster occurs. I mean, boy, there's so much more than just the lights going out. There's limbs down, there's power lines down, there's water, there's all these different things. And boy, they jump on it. And of course, what you're doing now is geared specifically toward that. You travel all over the Southeast then, right?
Correct. We are actually based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. That's where our command center is. And anytime an event rolls in, that's where I land. I go out to the command center, and we've got teams that set up and run these sites. And our teams consist of, like me, retired folks from different utilities. We've got several utilities that we have employees that retired from those utilities. And we've also got a good mix of retired military and first responders, law enforcement and firefighters, EMTs. Just a great mix of folks that are used to that kind of environment, emergency response and the critical thinking that it takes to act quickly and prevent bottlenecks. Because our real job when we do that is, it's what I call life support, the food, the water, the ice, the fuel, a place to shower, a place to sleep. Because it's kind of evolved over the years where many of the utilities now, for the purpose of speed, they don't want to lose the time of busing back and forth to hotels. Plus the hotels, it's much harder to get the rooms now because the average citizen is evacuating, or maybe their home's been damaged and they need that hotel room. So they're using sleepers, and we have thousands of beds in mobile sleepers. So those mobile sleepers are rolled in along with mobile shower units, bathrooms, catering, everything for those line crews. And you mentioned earlier, it's not just the electricity, and that is so true. It's linemen, but it's also the tree crews that come in. So they're also part of that workforce that's brought in and housed there. And the utilities do jump on it, and it's pretty fascinating to see from the inside, and it's kind of unique, I believe, to that utility world, how they all help each other. When I was with the utility here in Florida, I traveled from California to Puerto Rico to Maine, helping other utilities after they had events like this. But they all jump in and help each other to get the power back on. And it's called mutual assistance. And it is, I think, pretty unique to that industry. And they all, but as I said, they all jump in and help each other out so that they get what is now a necessity, electricity. It's not a luxury or a convenience that it was 100 years ago. So it's a great brotherhood, the way they come together and help each other out.
Yeah, Mike, I'm so glad that you came on to talk about this, because I guarantee you there's a fraction of the people out there that know that this is going on. I mean, they hear about the weather coming in, and once the storm passes, it kind of leaves their mind, but it doesn't leave the mind of the people that are doing the cleanup. What about the situation, the weather anomaly that we had that came in through the Gulf and went up through the Carolinas? Were you involved in that as well?
Absolutely. Last year, that was... I've said this in the past. It seems like we have these events, and they say, this is history-making. And sooner or later, I don't know how much more history I have in me, but you always think you've seen everything that you can see in that disaster world. And then we have Helene come through last year. And my gosh, if you're in the mountains of the Carolinas, you're just thinking, oh, those poor people in Florida, they're going to get it again. You're not thinking about it coming up there, are you?
Right.
And it was devastating. We were in Asheville supporting the utility up there for almost 2 months, and we had a site with a little over 2,000 folks that were eating there, sleeping there, showering there, and then going out and trying to put the community back together. We were there. We were in South Carolina. We were supporting Georgia and Florida as well, because not only was that event so devastating, but then while that restoration is still going on, you had Milton come in right behind it, and it had a pretty significant impact in Florida.
Wow. Do you know, are you familiar with Greg Biffle by any chance?
Yes, I know that name.
So Greg Biffle is a champion NASCAR driver and really, really great guy, and devotes a lot of his time still doing it, using his personal helicopter to fly supplies into the Carolinas to help those people. I actually saw him, about a week ago in Talladega at a race there. But boy, hats off to him, because what a personal effort it is, and to all you guys, man. I just can't imagine it. The first thing that comes to my mind is not only the trees coming down, but the amount of water and the damage there. Geez, there's just the power of water. It just can't be measured. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, the power of water and mud. Literally, some of what happened up there with all of that water. And if you remember, Bill, there's a lot of rain up there even prior to that event. So everything was soaked. And then Helene came through and just dumped more water. And they literally had just the side of some of the mountains just start sliding down. And it's just mud, and anything in its path was just devastated. It was kind of scary as we sent and deployed people up to that area immediately after the storm had gone through, and we lost touch with them because the communications were just, everything was down. So we got some sat phones up there for our folks, and I started getting some phone calls from people that know what we do that said, hey, have you got anybody up there? We can't find Mom. We haven't been able to get a hold of her. And, these are people that aren't in the affected area, but they're trying to reach loved ones. And we had several of our crew that were retired military, that this was right up their alley. I said, take that sat phone, and here's the address. Go find Mom. Go find. And they spent a couple of days just going and finding people and letting them use the sat phone to let their loved ones know that they were okay. It's a very rewarding job on many fronts to be able to help folks the way we did.
Well, I can see why you have to have so many talented people. Of course, obviously you got the linemen and people like that on the electrical side, but when you're going into these areas and trying to help people that are in many times wounded or hurt, right, from the storm. I mean, you have to have the evac experience to get them out of there. Man, talk about that a little bit. Well,
we don't actually do any evacuation type things. That we leave that to the local first responders, but we do everything we can to support that. And that is another thing that all the utilities I've ever worked with, these sites that they set up are for the linemen and the tree crews, as I mentioned earlier. But it's pretty standard practice. If any of the first responders in the area stop by and they need some water or ice or need to sit down for a meal, they're more than welcome to come into the food tent. That's been my experience with all the utilities. They do what they can to help support those first responders in the area so that they can provide those services to the folks in those devastated areas and get them the help they need.
Yeah, that is outstanding, Mike. Well, folks, we're going to have to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll come back. We're going to talk more with Mike and learn what he's doing to help people out there along with his team. Back with you in just a minute. Hi folks, Bill Gallagher with SolarFit here. Have you ever thought about utilizing solar power for your home or business? Well, there's never been a better time to plug into the sun and stop renting electricity. How would you like to let your roof start paying you each month? Give us a call at 445-7606. That's 445-7606. Or visit us at solarfit.com and set yourself free.
SolarFit your life and set yourself free with the sun's free energy.
Hey folks, welcome back to the SolarFit Renewable Energy Show. Bill Gallagher. I'm speaking with my friend Mike Willems. Mike, folks, if you did not catch the first part of this broadcast, please go back to our podcast because it's extremely interesting. We're talking about, helping people after a disaster, and I'm speaking to a fellow that knows more about it than anyone I've ever spoken to. Mike, before the break, we're up in North Carolina helping people, and we talked about the linemen and stuff like that, and you made mention about the food tents, and I'm thinking to myself, holy schmoly, who would think about that? The amount of food that you would have to have for all those rescue workers, how do you do that?
It's pretty impressive, the operation. My hat's off to the catering crews that we have that go out and do this. The first order of business when we roll up on a site is to start getting, obviously, the sleepers and the bathrooms and all those things in order. But there is a real push as soon as we get there to get the kitchen up and running. And we show up, though, with pre-boxed, pre-made sandwiches just to make sure that as soon as we get there, if there's linemen there or our tree crews or whoever is on that site needs something to eat, we've got food. That way they have something to eat. Even if it's a cold sandwich, at least they've got something to eat. But the first order of business, as I said, we set up a dining tent. And on one end of that tent is a kitchen. We build a kitchen, and all the equipment that goes with that goes in there. So all the things that you might see in a restaurant that is cooking large volumes of food, you're going to find in this kitchen that is in a tent in the middle of a parking lot or in the middle of a field or on an airstrip or at a fairground, whatever the space is that the host utility usually provides these staging sites and says, okay, here's where you can set up. So we get that kitchen set up as soon as we possibly can so that cooks can get in there and start doing their thing and start cooking food. And we have a kind of a standard menu we go through with, each day it's something a little different. They generally get 2 proteins, so they have a little bit of an option. And, Bill, I'm really proud to say most of the guys go home a few pounds heavier than when they showed up. It's pretty good eats.
That's pretty good. So I don't know if I want to go there. I'm pretty heavy as it is, Mike. I'll have to stay here and go to the gym, I think. But no, we have so much respect for you guys. All the stuff that you're doing there is just amazing. What do you do as far as watching the weather? I mean, I often kid about this. You see that little orange spot that's on the screen off the coast of Africa, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger, and then all of a sudden the people on the TV screen get all excited, and there's a storm coming, and you never really know where it hits. I mean, do you watch that? You got to watch that pretty closely because wherever it hits, you're going to be, right?
Oh yeah, we're all amateur meteorologists over here at DRG. We're watching that, and we watch the Weather Channel. We have our favorite bloggers. I don't know if I can mention it or not, but Mike's Weather's page. It's a guy here in Florida that's got a little notoriety, and you can go to his site, and he's just got so many different things you can access. But yeah, we look at every model that there is. Oh, well, this one's saying this one's saying that. But as these things get closer, we start communicating with the utilities in those areas that look like they're going to be affected. And we start sharing some information back and forth. And most of the utilities, the large one that I used to work for here in Florida, they have their own meteorologists on staff. And those guys are pretty darn good at helping us figure out, all right, here's where it's going to be. And part of watching it as close as we do is we start pulling triggers at 72 to 48 hours before potential landfall, so that we have people and equipment in place as close as we can and still be out of harm's way. Because the faster we can get set up, the faster they can start putting the lights on. Now, that's with tropical systems. We haven't mentioned yet that this is not just done for tropical systems. It can be ice storms. It can be derechos. It can be fires. It can be tornadoes. And some of those weather events, you don't see them when they're way off, just coming off the coast of Africa. Happen, and they happen quick and fast. We were in Chicago last year. I don't know if anybody recalls, but they had some straight line winds, some tornadoes that came through, and I got the call at 1 a.m. in the morning from them, and we were up there serving supper to those folks that night at some of the sites that they were opening up. So you don't always have the luxury of seeing it coming at you. You just got to be able to respond very, very fast.
That's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because, up in the Northeast, they have these ice storms where there's so much ice gets on the power lines, it just collapses them. And, up there, it is cold, right? I don't know about I've been in a tent at 30 below zero, and I'm not sure that I want to go back and do that. How do you do that?
No, and they are a very, very different event. I'll say this about ice storms. It is more devastating than I ever could have imagined when I went to my first ice event. But it is the most beautiful devastation you will ever see. It's that morning we got up after the ice event occurred, and the sun starts hitting all that ice. It's just everywhere. It was just dazzling, but it's deadly. It takes the wires down, and it presents a whole different set of hazards for you. Because as the day warms up, generally this ice starts melting, and you've got to be aware of ice sliding off roofs. And if you're out preparing, as the crews are doing, that you're around trees, and big chunks of ice can start falling out of the trees. So, it's a very, very different type of event. You have to deal with some of the ice. Tornadoes are a whole different animal. Floods, they're all very, very unique.
We had, actually several weather issues that seem to come predominantly over the Gulf of America, and they're at a point where, is it going to make a turn? Is it going to go straight? Where's this thing going to go? And it's almost like you're almost ready to pivot. You don't really know where the thing is going to go. And I know Fort Pierce has been hit several times, and here at Daytona, where our studio is, we've been hit 3 or 4 times, which is very unusual. We're usually in a pocket here that doesn't get it, but once that storm goes across the state, you're in it. So how do you really know where to go?
It's kind of tough, and particularly with Florida, because it's a peninsula, and everything's got to come in from the north. And what we have learned by getting it wrong in the past is we try to position our people and our equipment on both sides of what we think the path is going to be. Because if you get cut off, you can't, that speed piece that I was talking about earlier, you lose that. And you don't want to get there after the crews are already there. So we've got some spots where we'll bring folks and equipment in way to the west in the Panhandle, and then we've got a couple of spots that are very far to the east in the Panhandle, so that we can hopefully get down 75 or 95 to where we need to be. But a little bit of it is in just experience. Some of it's watching what the forecasters are telling us, and there's some of it that's just a little bit of luck to get ourselves just in that right spot. But even with that said, we're always ready to move quickly if we have to keep our folks safe.
Well, you almost have to be there first because, the roads are a log jam. Whether it's 75 or 95, they're pretty much at a dead stop. If somebody has a bit of an accident, then what do you do? How do you get around all that? I guess you go off on the shoulder and go, huh?
Yeah, you go up on the shoulder and go. And the crews that we have in the lead on this with the equipment, they travel. One of the first trucks out has a extendable boom forklift on it, and maybe not everybody's familiar with that, but it's extremely useful. That coupled with a few chainsaws in the trucks, if we have to, we're clearing the road on the way.
Wow!
They'll get the chainsaws out, offload the forklift, and get out there and move what they got to move. And to your point, sometimes if it's a traffic issue, it's getting off the side of the road. We've also had instances where they've gotten the state police involved and they've provided escort to get us there a little bit quicker so that we can be there to do what we need to do for the crews.
Oh, man, that's handy. Geez, Mike, this interview went way, way too quick. We're almost out of time. What is the name of your company? How can we help get the word out there about what you guys are doing?
It's Disaster Resource Group, and you can go check our website out. As I said, we work for many of the large utilities across the Southeast. So I don't run out of time, I just want to thank you, Bill, for this opportunity. And if I could leave everybody with one thing, it would be when they say have a plan, you need to have a plan. You need to be prepared ahead of time. We have the luxury with these hurricanes to see them from afar. And so it's coming. And even if it turns and you made some preparation and you thought, well, I'm not doing that again, you need to do it again. And everybody says, oh, we got a plan. They have a plan until a Cat 5 is bearing down on their house.
Right.
Then it's all of a sudden, oh, gosh, I never really planned for that. That's what you have to plan for.
Yeah, boy, Mike, what good advice. It's easy to become complacent, especially if you survive one of these without getting hit. You just, we'll stick around. It's not always a good thing. Mike, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for what you do out there to help citizens like us stay safe, man. We're proud of you, and really, really great to call you a friend.
Well, same here, Bill. And again, I really enjoyed it, and thank you so much for giving this opportunity to kind of get the message out, and hopefully people will take it to heart and be prepared this upcoming season.
Great message, Mike. Thank you so much. Okay, folks, we're going to have to sign off for today. Make sure you go online and see what Mike and his fellow members are doing out there. It's a tremendous thing for everyone. I'm going to sign off for now. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you later.